Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Board of Selectmen is called October 10th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Moving right along, approve the September 26, 2024 Selectmen meeting minutes.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor?
One absentee.
One absentee, yeah. Public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is on the agenda, that is not on the agenda, excuse me. Okay, order 4, consider a renewal of liquor license for the Lost Fire Asador LLC located at 62 Mills Road.
So moved.
Second.
This has been approved by everybody that needs to approve it, and I have a first. Do I have a second?
Yep.
Yep.
First, and second. Any more discussion? No? All in favor? Okay, update, let's see, update the results of the pesticide testing from the Conservation Commission. Robin?
Hello, Robin Phillips, Kennebunkport Conservation Commission. I see you have the slide up there. So I'm just going to give you a little background. In 2021, the Kennebunkport Conservation Commission did a public survey with 60, I think it was about 600 people participated in the survey. And 62% of respondents were either somewhat concerned, concerned, or very concerned about pesticide use in Kennebunkport. Based on that, we thought we would try to write a pesticide ordinance. Some towns in York County have them.
Can I ask you how many you received back to make it 62%?
600,
You received 600 back.
yes, we received.
How many did you send out?
It was an email thing, and that, I don't know that answer, but I know it's in our minutes and notes, so if
Okay,
you want
okay.
that information. But it was about 600, which was surprising. That's
Yeah.
pretty big for a,
Small town.
yeah, yeah. So based upon that, because I've seen surveys of bigger issues that they don't get that many, so I was surprised too. So we decided to work on a pesticide ordinance to see if we could get that tamped down. Algonquin has one. York has not a official pesticide ordinance, but like they don't sell any pesticides in the hardware stores or anything like that. So there are a few towns in Maine. Blue Hill has one. So we sort of based it upon Blue Hill's ordinance and brought it before the board at that summer and the next summer, so it'd be 2022, and they said no interest. So we just went back to the drawing board, and we did have quite a few opponents that were quite vocal, and they said there was no proof and to show them the science. So others also maintained it was their right to do whatever they want on their own property, which all are valid points. So bearing that in mind, and I believe we're the only town that is doing this in Maine, besides possibly Casco Bay, the organization that runs the islands, they may have done, but no one's doing this. So we decided to seek proof, and with the help of Stephen Hanna, who is, a world-renowned scientist, we asked for funding to do some pesticide testing just to see, is it staying on private property? Is it present at all? And we tested the outflow, like, so, for instance, at Goose Rocks, you know how it gets wet in the back there. Those go into drains, and then they go into a catch basin, and then out to the marsh, or in the instance of Ocean Avenue, there's a pipe across from 178 Ocean Avenue that just goes right into the ocean. That is also funneling all the runoff. So though we had 4 sites, Atlantic Hall, Belvedere, New Biddeford Road, and 178 Ocean Avenue. So we proceeded to take samples, although last summer, we were granted the funding by the Select Board, which we appreciated. And last summer, as you remember, we got 36 inches of rain. And the ideal conditions for pesticide testing are 10 dry days and then an inch of rain. Not so much that summer. So we were only able to get one sample last September. And even in all that rain, all 4 test sites tested positive for some pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides. And the term pesticides encompasses insecticides as well. So it's just one big lump, but you can see there on the table that we have them delineated. So the sample sites, if you're wondering how that happened, were chosen with the help of 2 town public works employees. Steve Hanna and I spent a morning, well, we mucked around quite a bit before calling the town. And by the way, Belvedere, that drain's plugged. You might want to do something about that. But so we went with them, and with a map, we chose spots that would represent the most area, most properties. So while there are catch basins in many areas, the ones we chose are the ones that would get the most runoff condensed into them. So that's how they were chosen. So like I said, we have 4. All the samples were collected by Steve Hanna and myself in the pouring rain. And if you, there's a slide of me taking, in the catch basins, you have to remove the cover, stick a gizmo down that I developed with a yardstick and a bullet container, and take it out and put it in a amber jar. And it's sent to Montana State University, where they are pretty much the premier pesticide testers, and they do 200 different pesticides in one sample. So it was really like the pesticide samples you sent to wherever when the sewer was going wrong, they do less and they're more expensive. So you have to send it in refrigerated box overnight, and then it takes 2 to 4 weeks to get a result. So we did 1 sample in 2023 in September, because that was the first time we, like that summer, it was pretty bad.
From all 4 sites?
We didn't do Ocean Avenue because we weren't sure we had enough money, but I think that the people of the town should, it's not all Goose Rocks, it's not all Cape Porpoise, and Ocean Avenue it's a large hill, and there's a lot of green grass up there, and the catch basin, there's no catch basin, but it's a pipe directly into the beach. So that's where that is. So that was easy. You just stick a bottle under it. I want to indicate that on all these pesticides, there is no level of safety. It's just approved or disapproved by the EPA. So, we don't know. I mean, but some of these, many of them do have harsh warnings and could possibly have, ill effects on living organisms.
So you say the EPA doesn't have a guide to what is bad, what is and what is acceptable and what is not?
Well, all these things are designed to kill things, so they are pesticides. So, of course, they're harmful to some things, but they either approve it or they don't approve it. And this year, not too long ago, they outlawed a pesticide, something they haven't done, or a chemical, in 40 years. So it's not common, but if you research any of these, and I'm just here to present our data, you would see that you probably don't want to be near that too much or ingest it, or, but they don't set a level. So I can't say this is above the safety level or below. It's just yes or no, and then, they'll outlaw it if it becomes, something they think they need to do. So we were able to get 2 tests this year. And we have enough, because the fiscal year, it starts July 1st, we have enough in the coffer to do 2 tests in the spring, which really is when they put a lot of you'll see a lot of these are pre-emergence, herbicides, things, to keep grass going. And spring is a good time for that. And things are waning now with the spraying, so we got 2 this spring because we had money left from last year, and then we just got 1 last week, which is still out. So that is that. And so would you like me to run through kind of?
Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
would you, please?
So, as you can see, we have these tables, and out of the 200 pesticides that they test, there were 16 herbicides, 3 insecticides, 1 fungicide, 1 fungicide-insecticide combo, and 1 metabolite of atrazine, which is a broadleaf weed killer, for a total of 35. When you see that letter Q, the top line is the reporting number, so that is the minimum that they will report on, but a Q means it was present but under that number. So it means it wasn't, but again, there's no determination on safe or dangerous levels. So out of the 25, there were only 3 with the Q. We would like to, in the future, if we can continue this, if people feel it's valid, test for pyrethrum. That is an additional $200 per test, which would mean it would be $800. But pyrethrum are quite harmful, known quite harmful for bees and pollinators and things like that. Even the synthetic one, the organic one, is a derivative. It's not really a chrysanthemum. So we would like to try that because that is used in a lot of the organic sprays. And so they say it's organic, but it's still quite harmful. So, but we didn't have the money in the budget this time. So of all the sites, 178 Ocean Avenue, even though we only have 2 tests in because we didn't get last year, had 27 total of all the tests, with 6 of them being under the reporting limit. So that was interesting. The second highest was New Biddeford Road. That had 25 total, with 13 being, 12 being in Q, meaning under reporting limit. And then Bel Air and Atlantic Hall tied with 21. And at Atlantic Hall on our first test, there was a very high, there was a high number for 2,4-D, and it was so high that they tested it again in that same sample, and it came back, they confirmed that that was accurate. So that was a very high level compared to everything else. Yeah. So, and 2,4-D is pretty, it's a broadleaf weed killer, so I don't know if somebody just, and that was during the high water. It was like you could have a kayak down there. So it was interesting that something would come back that high. I don't know if they dropped a bunch in the road or what happened, because it was really outside the parameters of any of the other samples we got. So that's how that went. And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
Go
just,
for it.
You said that some of the places, some of the hardware stores or whatever don't sell certain, that some of the hardware stores don't sell
Right.
some of the pesticides. Have you
Yep.
gone around to our,
Well, I know that, I think some of them are trending that way. I know Eldridge Lumber, are you familiar with them?
oh, yeah.
So they own the big hardware store in York, and now they have one in Sanford. And the Sanford one, they all do not allow any synthetic pesticides. And the one in Sanford actually has a person there that can kind of guide you through the organic process, So, and organic doesn't always mean, perfect, but in general, it's better than, Roundup or 2,4-D or, a lot of these things that people just use. And so, yeah, there are. Our Port Hardware has a mix. Kennebunk Hardware has a mix. Maybe a little heavier on the synthetic side, but it is trending. And Kennebunkport has a pesticide ordinance. So, it's becoming more of an issue, I think.
Yeah.
Because there's such widespread spraying. And, when we talked about a pesticide ordinance, we got a very strong reaction from many people, which, I understand. They're afraid of ticks and mosquitoes and stuff like that. But, we did prove it doesn't stay on people's land, and it is in the runoff. So
Yeah.
that has been proven at this point. So, I don't know where we go from here. We were rejected the first time we tried for a pesticide ordinance, but I think now there is a little.
It's hard, it's hard for me
Yeah.
to try and tell people what to do.
Right.
I don't mind giving advice.
Yeah.
And I think we had other meetings on
Yeah.
this, and one of the comments that came in was that most of the people now are aware of
Yeah.
what pesticides do
Yeah.
and what you put on your grass and,
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah.
And so they've worked with their landscapers or, to be more environmental.
Right, right.
So I
Yeah.
don't know if an ordinance is necessary.
Well,
I'd rather educate.
Well, I think, we have been trying that as well, and I agree, education and people making up their own mind is the most effective way to get, a solution. But I think who really came out was mainly grass. They don't want to lose their business. I don't think they're based in Maine anymore either, and so they are spraying everywhere. And so and this would be nice to educate people on, is that there is a pesticide registry you can register with, so that if anyone is applying pesticides within 250 feet of your house, the applicators must notify them. So that's how Steve and I chose a lot of our, because he's on that applicator list. He lives right down at the beach. I mean, people are literally spraying the dunes. I mean, it's right there, the beach. Yeah, it's kind of serious. So he would say, oh, I'm getting all kinds of notifications. So if we got the right weather conditions, we went for it then. It's been hard. We had an extremely dry summer this year. We really couldn't get a break with the weather, but it was easier. We did manage to get, 3 this year. So, yeah, I know what you mean about education, but now that we know, it is in our streets. It is flowing out a pipe on Ocean Avenue into the beach. So I think it's just something to consider. We have done the due diligence, and, Steve is a highly renowned scientist. He doesn't mess around. So I have a lot of faith in him. And, we went out and did it. So it's now what people do with it. But I think, a little poison is a little poison, and it's important not to, lobsters are impacted by a lot of these. They're endocrine disruptors. The mosquito larva and the lobster larva are very closely related. They're both arthropods. So lobsters have, the Woods Hole thinks that, and they're the premier, oceanographic institute in pretty much at least the East Coast.
East Coast.
And they have attributed some of this shellfish disease and stuff to pesticides. There's also another thing that's happening with the female lobsters. They're blowing out their eggs before they've molted right. And I've asked a couple lobstermen, and they have found some that are like kind of mushy, like the eggs and the shell is messed up. And that's another concern for lobsters. And also, pesticides really settle in sand and mud. So it's just something, I would like to test sand next year, just because apparently, if it's in the ocean, it's hard to test the open ocean for that, but if it is in the ocean, it'll settle in the sand or the mud. So it's kind of something to think about the lobster industry, because something is happening.
Thank you.
I just have a couple questions.
Sure.
I don't know how we would enforce that. It's kind of hard to imagine how we would be able to enforce it. That's one of the questions. But
Yep.
I'd also like to look at what Algonquin's ordinance is, just for curiosity, just see what that says.
I can get that to you, I'm sure. Enforcement's their issue, too.
What's that?
Enforcement is their issue as well. Everybody says that, and it's true with anything in life, but I think I would say it's the commercial people that really have the biggest impact on town. There's not a whole lot of people that live at the beach that are out like with a backpack and, whoa, you know, that's not happening, that I've seen. So, I mean, to challenge that, and even Werner, when he was here, he said, you know, he figured if we got rid of the commercial applicators, and I'm not sure where he got this number, probably 80% of it would stop. So that's they came out strong, though, I will say. South Portland has a pesticide ordinance, and they cited that as a nightmare, but I don't think that's really true. So, you know, it's just who, you know, they don't want to lose their business. They're making a lot of money here.
I need more information.
Yep.
Mary Beth, do you have anything?
Yeah, so I think part of it is, you know, I was just envisioning, you know, how a discussion would go. And when we started out, there is no level, right?
No, not, that's
So-
what she said. She had this.
Yeah,
there's
so,
a way of-
you know, there's applications, there's runoff. And so I would be surprised if it wasn't in the runoff,
Right,
right?
of course.
So, you know, so then, okay, so that's a bar of information, so we know we've got numbers, but then I don't know what the numbers mean. And so you're always going back, and for me, this has always been a thing of enforcement to like what Alan said.
Right.
So for example, I would rather do a awareness, you know, sort of like, you know, whatever happened to the little, you know, lawns for lobstermen,
Right,
right? And so that's where you have an awareness of what's my trade-off. I would really like to have a green lawn, not me personally, because if you looked at my lawn, it's not green. But if somebody said, I really would like to have a green lawn with 0 crabgrass, but they would know the price that they're paying to do that, to make that choice.
right,
Because I would say that there's probably a lot of people that don't understand that choice.
right.
I didn't understand about how bad Roundup was until I saw the lawyers on TV saying, you know, if you used Roundup and you have this cancer, you know, dial this phone number. So I'm thinking, okay, do not use Roundup.
And to that point, I would like to point out, that also had no limits, just
Yeah.
like these.
But I think that's where, and so I'm on the, okay, you know, an education, so that we've got information, we know it's in our runoff because people apply it. And then an educational thing of what else could people do? So, you know, what is the organic solution for having a green lawn?
Is
You
there
know.
a product out there that isn't, quote, a pesticide?
There
that
are
Still
some,
kills bugs?
well, flies water. No. There are some organic applicators, and they do have an organic spray, but I would like to point out that the organic pyrethrum are synthesized. It's not like they ground up a chrysanthemum. That comes from chrysanthemum, the original molecule. So it's quite harmful for bees, even though it's organic. But there are organic sprays. There's a peppermint oil. And a lot of people I know, you know, I have a gardening business. And so I don't tolerate any of that. Even if they're next to me, I tell them you got to come back tomorrow. So there are organic options. They're not perfect, but I think they're better than the full-on spray. And I think a lot of people, you know, synthetic spray have gone to that. But still, when you're broad spraying for insects, you're getting everything. It's not targeted necessarily to ticks or, you know, so I don't know if any of you have noticed. I just noticed this. I'm like, where are all the daddy longlegs? And, you know, they are an arachnid, you know, ticks are in that category, and they're small. So, you know, we are, and, you know, all the birds pretty much feed their babies insects. And so if we're killing all the insects, then, you know, it's making it much harder for birds. And it's not really necessary. I mean, you know, to just kill everything all the time. And, you know, they make money because they're on a schedule. So,
So I have to, you know, so so it's funny, because when we have these conversations, and I really want to make this statement, and for people listening, so like when we had the climate committee, and when I asked questions about the climate stuff, all of a sudden I was an anti-climate person, which is not true, but, you know, there's broadly. So I'm asking questions because I'm looking at it as a select board member of what we could or couldn't do and what that is the ramification. So my
Yeah.
questions are under that vein.
Oh, I know you're an
So if-
organic
so
gardener,
if
Mary
I-
Beth.
Yeah, so if I'm
know
thinking
that.
through this,
Yeah.
and if I think people are spraying their lawns, and yet we live in a highly wooded area, so we are not killing every insect here, right? Because there's a
No.
lot of insects here.
Right,
So if people are applying in their areas, so I go back to like a step approach. So we've got information, let's educate, let's give,
The exterminators, try to get to them and to use the right products.
well, yeah, and then there's the other part of it, is that if you do put an ordinance in, then people will apply themselves, their stuff themselves. So for example, people that have a business, so I'll take the other side of the business. I'll take the other side of the business, meaning that a business person comes in and they're regulated by laws from the state of what they can apply and how much they can apply and what areas. They know what they're applying, versus a homeowner that says, sort of, screw
doesn't
this.
know.
Screw this, I'm going out, I'm having people over, I'm gonna go kill some ticks in my yard. And then they see one tick and they go out and reapply, and then they see another tick and they go out and reapply. So, where do how's the best way to start to tap down? And for me, it's education for people to say, do you really want that super green lawn? Do you not want to have crabgrass? And this is the cost and environment for it. And then let's see where that starts to lead us. I just feel that if we tried for an ordinance, we might actually see these numbers go up.
Good
I
point.
have a couple questions. So I just want to, Montana, you send them a sample and they test for 200 different chemicals or pesticides.
yeah,
We only have 25 on the list. Can
Correct.
we assume that the 175 others did not show up in the sample?
exactly. Yep,
And then, I think this is great information. Is there a way for you to, from a homeowner standpoint, these are chemicals, but no one knows what they are. Is there a way to sort of translate some of this into commercial products that people might buy at the hardware store? Like, I'm just using the Roundup sample. If you have this, this, and this, you're going to find it. I don't even know because I don't really use pesticides. So,
yep,
I mean, is there a way to do that so that for an educational standpoint, you could say, stay away from Roundup, stay away from this manufactured product because it contains these chemicals which are showing up? That would be educational and would actually translate some of this scientific
Yep.
information into what people see on their store shelves.
yep,
I think that would also be helpful before we run into banning it all because, and I think what else would be helpful for the commission or the Conservation Commission, if you could, is maybe there are some organic ways or natural ways of dealing with some of these issues.
Oh, there are.
Right,
There
so,
are.
but come out with that. Like,
right,
I don't know, I use Dawn vinegar and water.
Yep.
Right, and that kills the weeds.
yep,
But maybe there are ways, other things that you could also suggest to people
yep,
that are natural or organic ways of dealing with some of the issues. I would just say mosquitoes and ticks need to be, I'm not getting rid of anything that gets rid of mosquitoes and ticks.
And the town puts out a news item or paper when you get your mailings, and that would be a good spot
Yeah.
to continually
right,
put,
right.
put stuff in there.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think we've gained traction since you were here and
Yeah.
you were here when we first came and they were like, yeah, no.
I think you've done a great job. I mean, this is
So,
good.
but getting the proof, that is,
It's hard.
yeah, and it's pouring rain every time. I had to hold Steve by his pants so he wouldn't fall in the manhole. So, it's, you're out there and you're doing your thing. And we did take a lot of time to select good spots
yeah.
that would capture the most. So,
And now you have a benchmark, too.
yeah, exactly. We have a baseline, so we needed that. And when you look at the numbers, if you do, you'll see that one test we got last year when it rained 36 inches, I was surprised we got anything. But to think, and it was, how it comes down your road?
yeah.
Like, it was literally, you could have kayaked there. It blew the container right off my stick. I had to get another one. So it was pretty wet last summer, and to get them, I was sort of surprised. But expectedly this year, with the drier year, The concentrations are higher, except for that one weird one that was at Atlantic Hall in the first wet sample, but I have no idea why that would be so high. But it was 2,4-D, which is not the best chemical, so. But I feel like there's more support to educate people. I didn't feel like
There-
that before.
I think the board is saying that we'd
Yeah.
like to see more education.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we even consider an
Well, with the-
ordinance.
Right, with the town helping with that, that would be great. And, you know, people do want to make up their own minds, I understand that. It's just, you know, we all have to live, a lot of us are living here 12 months a year, and so people that are spraying and live here for 3, we're living with it with 12, and, you know, it's just, you know, if it's unnecessary to put that amount of chemicals on, I think we should try to get people, and I think people just don't know. I don't think people want to kill everything. I have more faith in humanity than that. But, you know, we should just be cautious.
I think David was right about, you know, some of these things, we don't even know what they are.
Right.
If you could get like some names.
Brand names.
Yeah, that would
Yep.
help us an
Yep,
awful lot.
yep, I can definitely do that.
And Robin, you said you had a little bit more money to do some more testing?
We have enough, so we were granted 5,200 for 2 years, and so the first year rained like crazy. We didn't get, you know, and we didn't get it until July 1st because of the fiscal year. So we were only able to get 1 sample, and that was in September. But this year, we had, because we didn't get the 3 samples last year, we had 2, so we could test, you know, because spring, you really want to have some money in there, so, because that's really when, you know, they apply an awful lot in the spring, all the pre-emergence, all that stuff. So, but this year, this last sample has not come back yet. It takes a little while. But we still have enough money for 2 more tests. And I would like to try to get a pyrethrum test in at some point, but it's, like I said, to do all 4 sites, we would only get, it would be $800 extra per test.
But
and
we
it-
know, I mean, we're pretty sure pyrethrin would be in there because of that is for tick spraying.
Yeah, you would think it would be, so it would be kind
So
of
it-
interesting.
yeah.
Maybe not all 4 sites, maybe pick the one that had the most, which was Ocean Avenue, and do one there. That would only be 200 extra. We could pick and choose, and maybe we'll get a little more money for next year. But this year, we have enough to start next spring with 2 rounds of samples. So,
So what's
I
the-
just think, you
what do you
know,
think?
maybe we could use some of the money. Everyone could buy a guinea hen.
Speak, what'd you say?
Everyone could buy a guinea hen. We could buy every resident a guinea hen and let them free.
that would bring the fox back.
And the foxes would come back and they would kill the mice. And
the
then,
mice would eat
and,
the insects.
and the guinea hens would eat the ticks.
Maybe we can get some koi dogs.
Martha
so they'd kill the
Stewart
foxes.
said that. So I'm
Well,
going
we have
with
an
Martha
imbalance
Stewart.
of the predator-prey in the town right now because they were trapping some foxes for
Yeah,
a
so
while.
I actually like to understand about that somehow, is like, you know, how do we go back to Rachel Carlson and say, can you stop trapping the foxes? Because then we have a mice explosion, which then leads to a tick explosion.
Well-
So it's these cycles.
I know. I think it's hideous. In fact, the first time they did this was several years ago, and there was a guy from the USDA hired by Rachel Carson to shoot foxes because of the plovers. That's where this is coming from. But when you kill all the foxes, then the white-footed mouse goes nuts, and the coyotes. A coyote eats 1,000 mice in a year, in a lifetime, excuse me. And foxes, you know, they don't eat that many, but they eat, that's a premier meal for them. So when you don't have those predators, you get a lot more prey, which are vectors for tick-borne illness.
Okay, so I.
That would
I
be a good
augment
thing
my
to-
thing.
Yeah,
We
one
should,
thing leads to another.
we should get a guinea hen and a coyote. Everyone gets one of them.
But I mean, I just think, you know, there's a balance, and I know that, you know, foxes can go on the beach and eat plovers. I love birds, I'm a bird person, but at the same time, you know, a lot of people get Lyme. I had Lyme, I was in a wheelchair, it's scary. I didn't love the idea of going back out into ticks, but, you know, I got over it. But I'm careful, and I keep, you know, my lawn kind of short up to the, and I let ticks have their space in tick season. I don't go out in the pucker brush in May. So all these things, they're just little tweaks that don't hurt anybody, that people probably don't understand. Maybe they need to understand more about the tick life cycle. And possums eat ticks, Mary Beth's favorite animal. And so,
Again, we can add the possum.
so
to
we'll
the
keep the
list.
possums around.
Don't hit them.
Yeah, I think they probably do more than guinea hens. And the turkeys, I think, do, but they also carry them around. So, it's just, when nature gets out of balance, it
Yeah.
rears its head. So if we could try to get more into balance and educate, like you said, if the town is willing to get behind us, I mean, we have communications more than we used to. We have that, we just weren't really, we have a Facebook page and, we had some stuff, but it's not, if the town puts it out, more people see it. So,
And,
so,
not that everybody reads the York County Co-Star anymore.
Right.
But, get somebody on
yeah,
the editorial
yeah,
side
yeah.
to put some information in there.
Yeah, yeah, and I know that someone in Kennebunk just wrote a editorial about needing a pesticide ordinance, and something I'd like to mention as well, because I think we're the first town, I don't know any other town that's done this, even ones that had ordinances did not do this work. So we've done that, and it's like going to Costco. If you get 5 towns to send in a sample, you get a cheaper sample. So we could actually do more testing, or at least have cheaper testing, possibly expand the testing. So that is something I would like to explore, is, getting a hold of towns like, a Gunkwit. I would think they might want to test, a Kennebunk, there's, and basically we all have the same weather, and you can keep those samples, once you've collected them, they can go in your refrigerator, not that you want it to, but they can go in the refrigerator for a few days, and they are sent out in like a lobster box with cold packs. They have to be cold the whole time overnight, which is 300 and some bucks to send one of those boxes overnight. So if we could collaborate with a few other towns, we could actually do more testing, have a much broader baseline, because we'd know what other towns were, how are they doing compared to us, and get it cheaper. So this was sort of groundbreaking, really.
Well, thank you very much.
That's a lot of work.
Are we
Yeah.
all set? Do you have any more questions?
I'm good.
Thank you for the,
Fine.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
this is very informational.
All right, and I will
Brand names.
get the, all the stuff you've asked for, the common names. Steve's away, he was starting to work on that, but he's in Denmark, so that's off for now. But it's definitely doable, and you're right, if it just said like 7, because people know what that is, and, that would
would
probably
help us
be
a lot.
helpful. But
That's
yeah.
great.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you,
No
Robin.
audience questions?
What's that?
Oh.
No? Nothing?
she asked if she had,
Oh.
if we had any questions.
All set?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, we have one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Hi, Fred Stafford, Kings Highway in Kennebunkport. I met with Robin earlier in the week, and she sought me out because she knows that we don't use any pesticides on our property as of 4 years ago when we remodeled. It's the worst front yard at Goose Rocks Beach right now, so if anybody's seen it.
You
And,
haven't seen mine.
Huh?
You haven't seen mine.
Okay, good. But anyway, I'm just here to support the idea of educating the public on this. Obviously, if you were to say tomorrow, hey, no more pesticides, it'd be a huge uproar. Because for a lot of people, myself in the past, we wanted that green lawn, and we never really thought about it. It was kind of a mindless application, right? It must be safe, or they wouldn't let us do it. Well, we thought, we were told the same thing by doctors about cigarettes in the 50s and 60s, so we know it's not always true. But anyway, I think educating the public, getting this information out there to our residents is really important, and I would be willing to help create those, work with Robin and Steve to create those materials to get on the website or wherever.
Great.
I think it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody?
Item 6, consider authorization of the administrative consent agreement.
So Galen's coming up to
Yeah.
discuss
you.
this?
Am I passing these down? Nope.
Review them. So I'm handing out some photos for you to look at of this application that's in front of you. So this is administrative consent agreement. This is for a shoreland zoning violation. Planning and Codes received a complaint in April of this year. for a cutting of shoreland canopy within the shoreland zone right off of Ocean Avenue on a private road called Sandpiper Lane. And so we've been working closely with Maine DEP and the property owner to try to resolve this issue. You'll see in the photos that are in front of you what the code enforcement office saw when they were out in the field. And then in negotiations with the property owner on what we should do for a strategy to replant, the property owner made the recommendation that he would like to wait 3 years to see what was restored of the original canopy. And so you'll see that there are photos later in the year where you'll see some vegetation that's reemerging from where it was cleared. And so what we're doing here with this consent agreement is memorializing the agreement between the town and the property owner that we will be going on their site once a year to do measurements and make sure what progress we're making towards an 80% recovery of the original canopy. If after 3 years that there is still a lag in that 80% target, the property owner will then be required to submit a replanting plan for the remaining canopy that was missing, and we will monitor that for an additional 5 years to make sure that the vegetation that was planted is firmly established and the issue is resolved. If this agreement outlines that if before 3 years, the vegetation canopy has been restored to that 80% target, then the complaint will be resolved and there would be no more violation for the property. So this is, this is a formal agreement between the select board for the town and the property owner that we agree to these terms for the next 3 years.
So it looks like a lot of this will come back on its own, right?
Yes, so it looks like it is restoring,
Yeah.
but again, what we told the property owner is we don't know how that vegetation is going to handle the stress of multiple winters. So we need to just verify after 3 years to see where we're at for restoring the canopy space.
So you're looking for a motion to go ahead and move this forward?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. What's the board think?
Questions?
I have no problem.
No, it sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the gentleman is on board with this too.
Yep, the property owner's in agreement, Maine DEP's in agreement with it, and town staff is in agreement with it.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agreement with a $1,600 penalty to cover the town's attorney costs.
Second.
I have a first and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none? All in favor? Thanks, Galen.
Thank you.
I'll give a hand raised on Zoom, but I don't know if it's for this item or the last item.
Okay,
Shall I speak?
sure.
Lori, you can speak.
Hi, thank you. I had my hand raised for the pesticide stuff. And I just wanted to say thanks for doing that work and the good discussion on it. And I hope that that we'll continue to fund that testing. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 7, review of the Stonehaven Hill parking recommendation.
So Chris and Eric will come up and talk about their field investigation based on their last discussion with the board. And behind you, we have a visual.
So we did go back down and look at that. We also met with one of the local residents down there as well. So the length of the causeway is about 240 feet. So that is basically the length of the sidewalk is 240 feet. So that'd be enough for about 12 spaces. You could probably get 3 or 4 more in. However, that would restrict the access to the boat ramp. There's about 21 feet of asphalt, curb to curb down there. So if we were to make those spaces 8 feet wide, that would leave about 13 feet of travelable surface. We did check it with Eric's truck. Eric's is a, F-250. So we did go down there. We left the door open, just tried to measure what we had there because Obviously, we want to think about people getting in and out of their cars, with traffic moving by. So it leaves just about 13 feet, if the door's open, a little bit less, but certainly enough room for vehicles and trucks to get by, delivery trucks. This area probably does make more sense, because we would have to have those temporary traffic lights on either side of the causeway. And again, we get back to the issue of the people that are parked knowing what traffic pattern the light is in. So I did reach back out to Central Maine Signal, and what they can do is they can actually, those units have 2 lights, and they can take one of those lights and turn it, 180 degrees, and they can set that up so that it works off the other light. So in other words, if you were parked on the causeway, headed toward Cape Porpoise, and you were looking at the traffic light that is governing the traffic that is coming down Stonehaven Hill, there would be a light flipped toward you, and that light would be the exact opposite of, what Stonehaven Hill is going to be. So it'd be in concert with the one behind you, so that that, the traffic that is coming from the island has the green light. So then you could, leave the side of the road and be in the proper traffic pattern. So that's, what we found. We went back down to reconsider everything.
So my question is, you're saying we can get 12 parking spaces on the causeway?
We could get 12 adjacent to the sidewalk. So you could get a few more in if you wanted to block the boat ramp. But then obviously you're restricting access to the boat ramp. But just shortly after the boat ramp, the road starts to turn, and so then, that traffic light would then be out of sight for the people that are on the causeway.
So I'm still worried, I'm pretty sure that 12 will definitely help, but I don't think it's going to be enough, because they're going to be cutting off a lot of the parking at the pier, plus they've got a trailer coming in that takes up space, that's going to take up space, right? So I'd like to see a few more spaces, if we could get them, on the hill without blasting or anything like that, and to make it at least, I'd like to see at least 4 more anyway. But that's if you go down there today, if you went down to the pier today, yesterday, and we didn't have all the lobster boats are out, the pier's full.
Sure.
There's no place to park. So we're going to lose an awful lot of parking spaces, and I just would like to see a few more if we could get them.
Sure.
I don't know what the board thinks, but.
That parking space for the boat ramp, maybe we open that up in the wintertime, but come summer, put a cone there so that it stays open, so that, at least we gain it in the off-season. Just a thought.
Okay.
I just want to, are we still at this only being in the spring, like April, May, June,
April to July,
We're
right?
not doing this winter, right?
April to July, yeah.
I don't think that we need that space in the wintertime. I just think that we need it, when April comes, April, May, June, July,
That's true.
it really needs some, there's just no parking there.
Sure.
And then you have a lot more see, you're gonna have lobster boats this winter that's not gonna be going. So those spaces won't be used, but I'm thinking that we're gonna be really crowded without as many spaces as we can get.
Wait, what is the pier timeframe again?
Starts November 8th,
Okay, but we're saying between November 8th and April, we're okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to maximize this, within safety. I would like to grab as much as we can just for that period of time to offset. And the boat ramp one, the wood things over there.
The bollards.
The bollards. So what are we actually blocking?
You'd be blocking the
Cars.
entrance to the ramp.
If a car was parked there, you'd
Yeah,
block
they
the
don't want
entrance. You wouldn't even
cars
see the
down there.
bollards.
But can't you get around a parked car there? Because the bollards are there And if you had a parking spot,
There's also language in the easement
Right.
and the agreement that we came to about parking something there. So just understand that that impacts that as well.
okay.
But there are spaces, I think, on going up Haven Hill that we could grab a few more parking spots. I mean,
Move the dumpster.
I just don't, I'm not really in favor of taking the rock out and stuff like that.
No.
I just would like to see a few more if we could get them.
Yeah, I think just the
if
challenge
it's-
will be, I just think the challenge will be those parked cars and being in sight of those traffic lights so they know what pattern the traffic lights are in. That will be the challenge.
You know, and the other thing is, you can set it up, and if you have to tweak it a week later or whatever because of whatever, you can do that. I mean, it's not like it's going to be written in stone.
No, and I understand that. I think it's just, we want to be clear that we think with the site distance that's there, without obstructing the ramp, we'd only be able to get the 12 sites in. So if you want to go beyond that, we're going to have a site distance issue where people are not going to be able to see that traffic light so that they know what, traffic pattern is in.
You have to talk in
see.
the mic,
Yeah.
Eric.
Eric.
Is there anything at the pier itself? Is there any rocks that haven't been uncovered, in that wonky area of where people are parking now, where we could grab a couple extra spaces, even in this temporary zone?
Do you mean going up the hill?
No,
or
actually at the pier.
At the pier?
Yeah, is there any others, is there something that is transitory that we could make a change to just in these limited months, that we can grab 2 or 3 more? I mean, because all we're trying to do is just make sure that we can give whatever we need parking space for those, 4 or 5 months.
There's nothing else that I really see down there. We still allow that parking on the corner of the lot, for the restaurant. And as we head back down toward the causeway, there's another room for maybe 2 spots in front of, it would be 80, I think it was 80 Pier Road. But as we start getting south of that, or, toward the causeway, we already have the parking on the other side of the road. So if we try to establish more parking on the opposite side, we're going to get back to that same issue that we had where we've kind of restricted the roadway, and we don't really have 2 travel lanes.
Okay.
And then you get back to, do we now need to have that temporary traffic light back up there? And
Yep.
then we get into the site distance issues again.
Yeah.
So you want to ask, this is my thought. I think that the causeway makes the most sense, whether it's 12 cars. My concern has always been the safety issue. So I would support parking on the causeway. It gives pedestrians safety because they still have a sidewalk to walk on. No one's wondering what's going on up above the hill or around the corner. And to Sheila's point, maybe we start with that. If we need to tweak it, we tweak it. But we also have X number of months between now and April to work. Once that stuff comes in November, we're going to see exactly how the pier is set up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will know, do we need to find 2 or 3 more spots? And if we do, we have months to try and we'll work with the restaurant down there or try and figure something out that we can maybe gain a few more. I don't want to start going up and over that curve on that hill. I couldn't support that because I'm just concerned that people aren't going to see what's going on. So I think if we can get the causeway set up and then work on tweaking some things, if we need to, we have months to do that. That's where I would go.
How long is the project again? How long is this?
Until July, late July.
Till July? Okay. I think you guys are doing the best you can.
I think you can.
I mean, it's not like
it's
there's
a
a whole lot of
challenge.
extra property
Yeah,
there.
And
it's a
it's not gonna,
challenge.
except for the signals, it won't cost us anything. Everything else starts to cost us money, and it's only gonna be temporary, so you don't wanna be blasting and moving stuff, so. I just think we need to, this is an easy solution right now, and we see how it works, and if we need to tweak it, we tweak it, but we also have time to plan it out if we need to, before we get there.
So I guess just do the 12 for now, or think about doing the 12 for now, and we'll have to look at it in the future, but that will not be enough parking for the pier.
And no overnight parking.
12 is better than nothing.
Yeah, and we talked before about maybe some of the lobstermen who have helpers can
Carpool.
share rides for the 5 months that it's going to happen. You know, I mean, we do the best we can.
Have we talked to the water district about that fire hydrant?
Can I just, I mean, you might not have the answer, but there's also, you were talking about two other spots. There is that stone wall that has vegetation in front of it by the Ultramar's parking. I don't know if they own that, or does the town have some right of way that goes to that stone wall? It's got kind of the, people think it might be a utility pole, but it's kind of just a pole there. I mean, could we clear that out and gain 2 spaces if we do control that? It's kind of, can you move that?
There you go.
Right here.
Yep.
Can you zoom in, Dave?
There you go. Yeah, right.
You need a touch screen.
I just think that there is some, if the town owns that, or has a right of way there, it does have some ability to maybe be cleared out and see if you could get 1 or 2 cars in there
I
too.
think you'd gain like, what, 5 or 6 feet, right? Isn't that what we thought?
I don't know, I would have to go down and measure it out. Would have to go down and measure it, but I think,
Because we walked that,
yeah.
yeah,
It's right
yeah.
to the driveway to this house and then this.
Yeah, we can certainly go down and take a look at that, but there is a driveway that comes
There's a
in.
driveway, so it would be from the driveway to the parking lot. I just think that you might, if you got rid of that vegetation there, maybe it could be permanent parking after that too.
And that would take care of the bottleneck right there too,
Yeah.
because it narrows down to 1 car if people are parking on that side.
On the other side, right?
Yep.
So,
Okay.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
do you need was there a motion here? No?
So what we would need to do is, if that's your direction, we need to come back with an order, a traffic regulation order for the board, but we need to go through a public hearing notice, so we'll put that on our list.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to go down with you and show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Item 8, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item 8, consider adoption of a select board meeting rules.
I only have one comment.
What's that?
One word is misspelled.
Okay.
I have no other complaint.
I did receive a feedback from Mary Beth, and I did fix her feedback.
I
so
think
I'll-
it's the same word.
Event?
Oh, yes, I fixed that.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's the
thank
same
you.
word.
No, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
I have no problem.
So I highlighted in yellow what was changed, and changes were based on your recommendations. Again, this is not, this would be set rules that you would approve, but you will be able to change them, add them, amend them later at any time. We'll see how it works. I think overall this describes pretty much our current practice. It just puts it in word, in writing, and it makes it more clear. So.
You guys did a great job.
Yes,
Thank you.
I just would like to make one comment.
Yeah.
So I agree with everything. My comment is that you did put in the additional language on that, the meeting rules for 3-minute comments, and that it may be longer at the board's discretion. And I think an example of that for the public to be aware of is how the last meeting was handled when we were talking about the head of the harbor. And, we had, neighbors and stuff, or residents that were in that neighborhood, that we needed to have a discussion. So I hope that the town, that the residents realize that that's what we're trying to achieve here with this, and that we are open to discussions and, as per the discretion.
All depends on what it is, right?
Yep.
So we need a motion.
Motion to approve the select board rules
Second.
I have a first and second. Any more discussion?
as written.
Hear none? All in favor?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 10, update on automated waste program transition.
All right.
We're going to 9.
Oh, did I skip 9?
We decided to go in chronological order.
Well, I wonder why. Okay, sorry about that. Proposed communications plan from the communications and events.
Perfect. Good
Sorry for
evening.
skipping that.
Good evening.
It's okay. So we last presented, Hope Maury Wall, Communications and Events Specialist for the town, and Yanina Nicholas, Director of Support Services. So the last time I presented was last September. We talked about the communications department's or support services department's progress and what we were kind of working on. We had ended with 3 things that we would be working on moving forward, including communication strategy, working on a new website, and then we had asked the board if you were interested in a logo. And we'll kind of go into that a little further. And the board said, yes, explore that idea. So we're here tonight to update everyone on what we've done and the different logo options that we've developed. So just overall in your packets, you'll have the communication strategy. We have finalized that, and it goes over the priorities and scope of work for the communications team. This strategy, it helps kind of guide our efforts and also lays it out on a chronological kind of timeline throughout the year of when we're most focused on certain things and when there are spots that, might be available for new projects or things to come up. And this strategy also outlines the process for adding things to our workload and seeing, what is feasible and what kind of support we can provide. So the next part of the strategy that we're working on is the emergency communication strategy. And we are working on that with the emergency management team, including both chiefs, Chief Everett and Chief Simeone, as well as Eric LaBelle, the Director of Public Works, and any other applicable parties. So we are asking you to consider adopting this strategy, or if there is something you think is missing or would like to see, we welcome any feedback.
So I just want to say that I think that the communications plan and the strategies is well thought out. One of the things we first tried to identify as staff is what are the reasons we do communications? And so Hope has laid out these 4 categories of public information, public engagement, creating value, building relationships, and fulfilling legal obligations. Because it's easy for work to be created or for people to come up with ideas about, we should do that or we should do this. And so it's really about going back to those 4 core values of where does this fit? And if it's not doing one of these activities, probably it's not something we should be focused on. And so certainly some of these are items that we have done for some period of time. Others are newer events, but they tell you where they relate. And through the chart, it's kind of easy to see where you're spending your time and energy and whether you need to refocus some of that.
No, I think this is good. I think, when Robin was presenting, so now you can look at, the table that Lori just referred us to, and we can see, like Sheila brought up, conduits for that information that, the board agreed is, and, valuable to get out to the residents.
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
To raise the level of knowledge. So, we can look down your list and there's many areas where, that can start feeding into, you know? So I
Yeah.
think this is very helpful.
Any more comments?
No, I
No, I
think it's,
think
I thought it was a good plan.
What'd you say, David? I couldn't
I
hear.
thought it was a good plan.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think it's, yeah. You want a motion?
What about the logo? Do we need to work on?
That'll be
That's a different.
that'll be the
that's
next
a
step.
different- that's the
We're just gonna
next
do
thing,
it
yeah.
one at a
Okay,
time.
I will make a motion to accept the communications update and period.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any more?
And the communications
The plan.
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 Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Any more discussion? None? All in favor? Thank you on the first part.
Yep.
Thank you. So the next part we wanted to update was on the website. So the last time we talked, we were had done a community survey and we're kind of delving into what we wanted from a new website. Since then, we developed a website committee, and that committee helped us with. They demoed all of the potential different websites before we sent out the request for bids. We demoed a bunch of them, or all of them. And once we got the bids back, the website committee reviewed all of them and gave our recommendations. And that's how we ended up with Revise, who is our current website vendor. We were able to roll that out this summer, and we've been able to see kind of how that's been working. We also, some of the big things of why we needed a new website, for one of the ADA requirements, and they actually there's been a bunch of new information coming out about it, but there will be new legal ADA requirements. There have been guidelines for years that have kind of been unofficially put together, but now there are legal requirements. And for a municipality our size, it will go into effect 2027. But this gets us on track, and the new website is ADA compliant, and as well the documents on demand, which we're now using for minutes and agendas, is also ADA compliant, and so everything that's on there is it works with like a screen reader. If someone has trouble reading screens, it will read it out to them, and everything that we're adding and scanning to that is also works with that technology. We've got some feedback. It's been a little mixed. There have been some bumps that we've been trying to fix as we go along, and we're always open to other feedback as well. We did just want to remind people too to sign up for the notifications. If you were signed up on the previous website, that did not transfer over. They were not able to take that data. So you do need to re-sign up for the notifications from the website and about alerts for agendas and minutes through documents on demand. And if you have any questions about how to do that, please feel free to contact us. Dave has also helped, Dave Powell, our technology specialist, has helped put together some guidance for people with screenshots and directions, just in case you need an extra hand through it, or we're happy to help however we can. You can always call. My number is 207-967-1608, or you can shoot me an email at hmowry, which is MOWRY, at kennebunkportme.gov. And if it's not something that we know the answer to, our vendor has been very good at working with us to make updates and changes as they come up.
You might be getting some calls.
I'm happy
Yeah.
to have them.
Great, I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people know that we're here to help, and some of it can be tricky moving to a new system whenever you do anything, but once you get there, the documents too are a lot more searchable, which has helped.
Well, it's a brand-new website, and it's going to take a little bit of time to learn how to do it, like with anything.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, I think you did a great job with the website.
Hey, when
So,
we have the voting day, would it be something that we could set a PC up with you in the fire area, and people can walk through, and if they have problems logging in, or
Yeah, I mean, we'd be
Well, that's a good idea.
more than happy. I'll just check with
I
Tracy
really like the
about.
guinea hen idea. That was my ultimate one tonight, but if this is okay,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
go
a
with
good
this.
idea.
It might just be a way to catch some people that, you know.
Who
Or
have
people
questions,
who-
who have questions or just
Yeah.
want to, yeah.
Or people who
Yeah.
even aren't aware
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they can do this.
We will need to check with our town clerk, just not to rock her world. Well, we'll definitely check with her. I also want to let people know that library invited us to participate in their library educational event. So it was set for November 7th, which is Thursday at 9 o'clock. And I will be talking about website, and both Hope or Dave are invited. They will come and show people how to sign up, what to do about the website, and how to go about it. So anyone is also welcome to that event. Also, anyone who stopped by the town hall and said they had problems, both Dave and Hope were very helpful and guided people step by step. So we welcome people to stop by, ask questions. But I also have a question to the board. How do you guys use website? How do you feel about the new website? Do you have any feedback that you want us to work on?
No, I have used the website. I think the website is easy to navigate. I think it's fresh. I think it's a very easy to navigate website. My only issue is I've brought up before is when you get the notifications, which I know you're working on, so I'm not, you
Yes,
get it
we-
from Revise, and it's just, other organizations use Revise also, so you just don't know who it's coming from. I've figured it out when I get it, but I just think if we could get it to come from the town of Kennebunkport, which I know you're working on,
Yeah,
it would-
it's
that would
absolutely
solve
fair.
a lot of the-
It's absolutely fair comment, and we did put ticket, and they going back and forth between our IT specialist. It has to do with DNS, which way over my head. But both teams are working on this piece.
No, other than that, it is.
Good.
It's excellent.
I'd just like to say the documents on demand, we chose to go in that direction. We could have housed some of the documents within the website like we did previously with Civic Plus. The issue is Civic Plus had a cap and was dropping off old minutes and agendas. And we're going to dump a lot more. And so we went with the documents on demand model, which I understand maybe is a little more complicated for people, but it's going to give us a lot more capacity to keep that history, and the searchability is improved.
Good.
Yeah, and just last on the website, our next steps are, now that we've had it for about 3 months, we're going to be reaching back out to the website committee to kind of talk with them and have them re-review things and make sure that there's nothing popping out there, and get some feedback from them on how it actually is working.
Good.
Okay, so the last part of this update is the town logo. So having a municipal logo has become increasingly popular in Maine and throughout the United States. These logos are typically used for like websites, social media, really non-formal documents. It can be very helpful for people to understand what is a formal document. Everything is formal as in coming from the town, but what's something that's a flyer versus what's something that's an ordinance. So just an example of how they can be used. So after our discussion, I went through and have developed 3 logo options. If you want to go to the next. So all of these options are playing off of the story of Kennebunkport, really as a rich maritime community throughout time, whether it was from, building ships and lobstering, and even as we became, a destination for people to come to vacation and the cottagers. So a lot of it plays off of that. You'll see on the next slide the current branding that we're using. So previously, before I started, the 2 kind of icons that we had were the flag, which was adopted in July of 2021, and then our seal. And our seal is used on all formal legal documents. But seals can also be, you have one seal and you want to keep that seal, whereas a logo can be more adaptable, and it can be something that is a little more eye-catching or vibrant to really kind of pull people in and help them immediately recognize where the information is coming from. If you want to go to the next one. So this is the color palette that we're working with, and logo options. So the first one is here. So this design is reminiscent of our seal. It features a clipper ship, but with some brighter colors. And as you'll see with the options that have a ship, we have it facing the right or the east as we're, rooted in our history, but we're also looking toward the future. Yep. But it has some brighter colors, and it is a little more simplistic than our seal. The second option pays homage to our town flag. This is much more minimalist option. It really just focuses on a few lines and colors. And then the third option features a schooner. And this image of the schooner is actually from an old photograph of a schooner right outside of Goat Island Light. So we really went through Kennebunkport history, and we're trying to, really pull on what speaks to Kennebunkport, and, what is the spirit of the town. So if you go on to the next page, there's all three.
I like option 2.
Okay.
Hey, now.
Yep.
We might have to do this by secret ballot.
So we'll be happy to take board's feedback. I just want to mention firstly that when Hope mentioned colors, ever since Hope's position started, we started bringing in more of a professional approach to anything we do. So you might notice this in the budget board presentation. So now all the budget board presentations have very much the same. Hope and I working on it together, all 100+ slides. So we pulled together the theme to be professional, to make it make sense, and to be consistent, but also to present Kennebunkport that if anyone else looking at this, at our community, they know it's Kennebunkport. And the same with logo. It's not easy to create a logo. A lot of communities pay a lot of money to create a logo because, as Hope, when she showed me this firstly, just a ship, but she was like, well, it's forwarding towards the future. And I was like, okay. And so it makes a lot of sense, and she did a lot of historical research. So I just wanted to mention that. But we are happy to take your feedback if you want to choose a logo, or we are happy to take a guideline towards if you want residents or somebody else to choose the logo.
Well, what's the board's pleasure?
I personally like logo number 1. I think it is a little 21st century in the color scheme. I just like the colors better. And I think it does represent the town, personally.
I would like one that has a guinea hen in it, but given that that's not gonna
Walking on the plank.
walking on the plank. No, I could go for the first or the second. The third doesn't do anything for me.
No.
But I could be swayed for the second. But the first actually is very much like our seal, So if we wanted to be a little different from the seal, the second would make sense. So I think that's the way I would differentiate it. But
The second makes more sense to me because we already have our flags.
Do we want to wait?
Mic drop.
Do you want to wait
No.
for John to show up, or do you want to? No, you just want to vote now?
yeah,
Okay. Well, I hear 3-1. If I can still count.
No.
Am I correct?
No.
Yeah, no.
Oh, us.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
She's okay with,
I'm okay with the second choice,
and David's not.
and David's not. But I think we've got our seal. So I think now I want our logo to be differentiated from our seal. I think 1 is very close to the seal.
And-
I
and-
like it.
Yeah,
Very
oh, yeah.
well. It's very nice, but the second one gets us a little away from the seal, and it's pretty bold, and it speaks.
I just want to know
You
if we'd have
are
to
you
change
okay with
all
that,
our
Dave?
flags.
Boring.
Nora?
No, no, the flag will still stay as its own
No,
icon.
I think I'd go with number 2. I mean, that's the way I feel.
We can do a vote.
You know, the way.
I'm
it's
going on the
happening,
record as number
David,
1.
If you had gone for a few
We
more.
could do 2 and 2, and then we'd have to wait for John. Oh, hey. I move that we make the logo option number 2, the town logo.
I have a
Second.
first, I have a second. All in favor? 3 to 1.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, guys.
10, update on automated waste program transition.
So Eric and I are here tonight to just give you a little update. Did you want to say something?
You'll be so happy when this is over.
So we currently have sent out a letter to the commercial customers that currently have Casella taking care of their dumpsters. And so what we have informed them is that we are moving to the automated system, and that Casella will need to change them to a front-load dumpster, and that previously we paid their tipping fees, and because of this transition, beginning January 1st, we will no longer be paying their tipping fees. So we sent the letter out, I'd say a couple of weeks ago now. We haven't really received much feedback at all at this point.
It's been pretty quiet.
Oh, you won't until after.
And so Casella was supposed to follow up with their own letter to those customers once ours went out, and they were gonna reach out and work with each one of their customers. So phase 2 would be to send a letter to the other commercial customers or commercial properties in town that do not have Casella as their base. So they could either be working with another vendor, they could be putting their trash out and the town collects it, we don't know which they are. And that letter would explain that if they can be similar to a residential unit where they can have one trash cart and one recycling cart, that the town will continue to pick them up, and that they will be a QR code that they can go on the website and put in what they would want for that. And that we would transition those people in the spring. So we had originally talked about moving both commercial sides in January, but because the carts won't be available until May, it seemed to be a mixed message with those transitioning. So that would be the next step. We also need to send a letter to all our residential units explaining the one cart for each system, and working with them to transition people. People will all have different circumstances, some will be on private roads and some will be, on their own lot right in front, and it won't be much of a change. And so our plan is after the start of 2025 to start working on those 2 letters, or sending those letters out.
Okay.
So Lori, just for clarification, so the commercial stuff all will transition when we transition?
So the commercial dumpsters will transition January 1st.
Okay, so they'll still transition January 1st?
Correct.
But if a commercial can do the 1 point pickup, they'll transition
With us in
with
May.
us in May?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll have to notify us.
What's that?
They'll have to notify
Yes,
us.
they will have to notify us. The letter states that. Do you have anything else to add?
No,
No?
no, it's really.
Great.
I think we have the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee to continue to work on education. So there is a short article in the newsletter this month coming up, you'll see on the front page, giving people this timeline that the carts will be happening in May, and that more communication will be coming. We'll do another article probably in the spring. Keep in mind that when that comes out, it comes out after the carts have been delivered. So that one will probably talk more about what you can recycle, what you can't, reinforcing what we've already sent out to people. And we have put in our order for carts, and so it's really just starting that communication campaign, but we wanted to wait till we got a little closer.
Yeah, so it's important that if you're a commercial business, that we're not delivering carts to you unless we are notified that you can operate as like a residential unit.
Okay, and that's what the letter, so the letter gives them enough notification that they have to submit back to the town, yada,
Yes.
yada, yada.
Yeah, we put a QR code and a URL link so that they can just go right to that page and put that information in.
Okay. And what about so in the education part, are we going to do any public, not hearings, because we're not looking for, it's not but are we going to do any kind of besides the news, are we going to do any kind of public discussions in a board type meeting? Are we going to recycle people's current dumpster, carts?
So one of the things we had talked about, and the board was interested in, allowing us to take people's cans. So when we talked with our group, it seemed like the easiest method was to rent a dumpster, a 30-yard dumpster, have it up at Public Works, and that we'd have certain days where people could drop their cans off. So I was thinking, we would do, an evening, a daytime, a Saturday, maybe do that for a couple of weeks and let people bring those there. People can certainly keep their cans, they just can't use them. We have started getting some questions into Public Works, the admin people. I mean, they're dribbling in, but they're questions like, can I keep my old can? What happens when I need more? Can I request my size bin ahead of time? We're getting a few questions, so I think it's circulating.
I believe there'll be some logistics issues, especially people on private roads that are placing their cans at the end of the road. They need to be able to be picked up, so they need to be aligned and things like that. So there'll be some of those issues coming up because the operator of the equipment is no longer stepping out of the vehicle. So everything has to be able to happen on the side of the road.
And if you can't pick it up, you're not gonna get picked up.
Right.
Any more questions for Eric?
No, it just seems that there's a lot of education.
Yeah, there'll be some
Trials and tribulations.
There'll be a
Yeah.
few growing pains there, but I think there's enough communities around here that I think most people can see
How it works.
how it operates.
Well, and keep in mind that 45% of our properties are from people who live elsewhere. And we hear a lot from other people who do this in their other hometown, and they give us feedback about that.
And are we having a special communication or additional communication to the realtors that handle properties down at the beach?
Yeah, we certainly can. I know that the Goose Rocks Beach Committee has been working with some of those realtors on other information. And that's one of the important things is this coming summer, there will be no Saturday pickup transition. And so we're really going to be focused on that as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you. I think I gotta
Stay right there.
I was gonna say, yeah. Okay, item 11, consider applying for FEMA hazard mitigation funds for Ocean Avenue One Beach
Bless you.
construction project.
So
Eric?
Eric is here, and Barry Sheff is here from Woodard and Curran to answer questions about this. So remember that Woodard and Curran did their analysis on the portion of Ocean Avenue by Wanby Beach, and they came to you and presented you with different options. And the board agreed on what they would like to move forward on. And so we have completed the preliminary design report, but we have not finished the design because we were then looking for funding. So earlier this year, we applied for Maine Infrastructure Adaptation Fund, and unfortunately, York County was sadly represented in those awards, and we did not get an award for it. So I've continued to talk with others about what other funding options there are for that project. So York County EMA, Art Cleaves, the EMA director, talked to me about the hazard mitigation funds. So hazard mitigation funds are usually funds at the national level where you can apply for them because you've continued to have damage in an area, and it just makes more sense to mitigate it than continue to pay for the repairs. And you compete on a national level for those funds. What has happened because of the January storms is the state of Maine has been awarded a little over $10 million for hazard mitigation projects only in the state of Maine. So this is a very unusual award. It is an unusual amount of funding. And so on Monday morning, Eric and I had a call with York County EMA and the state MEMA office, and Heather Dumais, who's in charge of this funding. So she was very excited about our project. She thought it was a good match. The issue is, as we talked to her, she thought we had completed final design, which we had not. So once that was made clear, she gave us two options. So let me just talk about the process for applying. So the hazard mitigation funds work on a first in, first out process. So currently, there is no one in line for these funds. And they have 10 million, and we'd be looking somewhere in the 3.2 to 3.5 million dollar range. So you can imagine that's a large percentage of the funds they have available. If you apply, you have to go through their federal process, you have to go through the federal procurement process for anything they fund, and you have to go through a cost-benefit analysis. And you need to meet the ratio of 1. So think of the cost has to meet the benefit. And Barry can talk a little bit more about that cost-benefit analysis because we've had conversations about whether we would be successful in that. The people at the state and in the county think we would be successful in that. I would tell you I don't see it as an easy hill. I see it, that we've got to have our backpack and our water on, and we got to be prepared for that chug. So that's what the process is like. The funding is only coming from the feds, so there is no state share. So, like when we get FEMA funding on a project for damage, it'll be 75% feds, 15% state, and 10% town. In this case, it's only the town and feds. So it's a 75% match on federal and 25% match on the town. We can use in-kind as well, a portion of in-kind. So option 1, she said, is we can go in and ask for advanced assistance funding and get funded on just the final design work. What that would do is that would have a match. We would have to go through this process. We would have to go through a formal RFQ, request for qualifications from engineers, and we would have to go through that evaluation process, choose someone, and then go through the design. Then once that is complete, we could go back to them and request funding through the construction. But remember, this is all on a timeline, and the first in is the first project to get funded gets the monies.
We may not be able to get the money because it might be all gone.
So we talked with Heather about the pros and cons, and I think that is one of the cons. So the pro there is we get more funding for the design. The con is it's a longer time frame, and you may not be there may not be funds when you come back for construction. The option 2 is that we upfront the costs for design ourselves. We do not have to go through a federal procurement process because we're not using federal funds. And then we, once that is complete, go forward with a construction application. We still have to go through the cost-benefit analysis. It's still a 75-25 match. Heather said we could then request reimbursement for the design funds we already expended. And if they have funding and they believe it's a good project, they could reimburse us. We also could use those monies that we've already spent and these new monies towards our match.
So we can do that.
We can do that, is what I've been told. Even though we didn't go through their federal procurement process. We had a fairly lengthy conversation about that with her. So what are the pros and cons of that? The pros is that we would be on a quicker timeline. I think that's what the state MEMA office was recommending to us. And the con there is we're expending the funds upfront ourselves. You know, we still have a final design at the end of it, so it's not money lost, but there's no guarantee that others would not have jumped in line in front of us. I think that Heather has represented in the meeting, she seemed very positive about our project and that, you know, she would do her best to get us in line and anything we could do to assist. So if we request a $3.2 million project, 25% would be $800,000. So we certainly have, if we do the final design work, we'll have about $225,000 in engineering fees towards the match. Our EMA director, Art Cleaves for York County, believes there are other soft costs we could use for the match. But in worst case scenario, you're looking at, you know, $550,000 that we'd have to come up in cash for the match. They've told me you don't need the match in place to apply because I explained the budget process and that we might have to put it in next year's budget. That did not seem to be an issue. One of the concerns is also the timeline. So do you have anything else to add before we
I think
do
it's
that?
24 months. The work does need to be completed pretty quickly. So
Say
it's
that
like
one more time.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I believe it's 24 months. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the 24 months is the construction needs to be completed within 24 months of award.
Oh, okay.
So as far as getting funding and such, that does play in.
But the other thing was the timeline on design.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if we were to go through the federal procurement process, we would need to go out for RFQs for engineering firms. So Wooded Curran could certainly apply, but they would be competing for that work to complete so we would need to go through that process first. Then we would, it's just a much longer timeline for us to follow.
I'm
So
in
we-
favor of option two.
Yeah,
I think
that
that's a
sounds-
cleaner, I think it's a cleaner thing, and you're not, even if something were to fail, you still have the,
Right. Yeah.
So option two, Woodward and Curran, so the 125 would just allow us to continue with Woodward and Curran to finish up the work. We don't have to go through the RFQ. They've already got the base work done.
Yes.
So they're just going to work off
Design.
the design work done, and they just work off what they've already done, and they know the project. I agree with you, Alan. I think 125 of our own funds to keep this moving is the smartest thing, and in the end, we still have our own final design work done, in case something else came up.
So, I mean, these funds, the place I would be proposing you take them from is our resiliency capital money.
Which is what the project's about.
Yep. So Barry, do you want to add anything about the timeline, how quickly you think your team could do that and the cost benefit analysis?
And when Barry's coming
already
up,
done,
another
right?
quick question is, in the 10 million, has the feds come back and said that there's, is there a percent that a project can take? Or can one project take the 10 million? They didn't put any guidelines like you can only get 3 million or 5 million from this. There's no,
She recognized that we were that our project would be about 3.5 million.
Yeah, and she also mentioned that that's a pretty large project for this particular. So it was good for us, let's put it that way, that she didn't expect a lot of large projects like this one.
Okay.
I would assume that they're also looking to spend the money.
I got that impression.
So, and the state of Maine will make the decision? They don't have to send it down to Washington to make the decision?
I think the benefit cost analysis has to be approved by FEMA through their protocols.
Yes, it stays here in Maine, so we are not competing on a national level.
No, but does
Who makes
Maine,
the
does
decision?
our MEMA make the final decision,
Yes,
is what I'm
they
saying?
do.
So it's all in-house to some extent.
Yes.
state.
Yeah, all in the state.
Good evening, Barry Sheff from Woodard and Curran. So the two things, right, in terms of the benefit cost analysis. It is something that our experience has been, MEMA in particular, has been more helpful than they have been in the past to help folks get over that hurdle. It's a challenge, and I've been through trainings myself on how to go through the benefit cost analysis, but they have been super helpful. They describe it as a worksheet process, and I think it'll be a discussion, and I think it'll be an early discussion that you'll want to have as a community with them in making sure that you can get over that hurdle. If you can't get over that hurdle, it doesn't make sense to necessarily advance too far, other than the point that you made, which is in the end, you will have a design that will be a constructible project, and you will be closer to, as close to shovel ready as we talk about.
So what kind of, can you give me give us a couple of examples of questions they might ask about this? How to get one-on-one?
Yeah, so it's really, if we think about it, we're going to spend $3 million. What is, right, that's the cost. And then in terms of benefit, we're going to have to aggregate all of the costs you've had for restoration and cost impact to residents. Are there costs associated with impacts with vehicular traffic, having to circumnavigate the route? And so it'll be an extensive discussion with them. And my understanding, and this is based on our experience, is that they are much more receptive to having those conversations. In the past, it has been, come to us with your benefit cost analysis and we'll tell you if it meets the criteria, and now it's a much more collaborative process.
So they'll work with us?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we believe by what we're looking at that we've got a high probability of making the 1-to-1 threshold?
I haven't looked at that yet.
Okay.
I'll be honest, and Lori and I had the conversation on Monday afternoon, to really know.
I mean, it's been my concern in the past with these FEMA hazard mitigation funds, and I had talked to York County about it, because they tend to look through rose-colored glasses sometimes, it feels like. And so I've said, it's just that we haven't, $3 million is a lot to prove, right? And so we haven't had that many dollars in repairs. We've done the repairs through our crew, and we can charge for time and equipment. It's disrupted. We have rocks every storm, every high tide. This one was the bad one in January. But I kept saying to York County EMA, I don't know that we have that money that would make that analysis. We can certainly look at other things as they've described, like the impacts to residents and things of that nature. And the other issue is how much traffic we have on the road. It's not like it's a major road, it's one that certainly serves a lot of people. But when we talked to the state, they seemed very positive, wouldn't you say, Eric?
I would have to say that she was very, very positive about it. Said she would sit down with us, work through this, and she was confident that we would get there. It was an interesting statement to hear from them, but either she understood the project enough to understand it, but she seemed to be very
Or
confident.
she's anxious to spend those dollars.
Or she needs to spend those monies.
Yeah.
Can you add in say, future impacts? Can you add in future impacts? So, because if you don't do the project, it's still going to have a lot more impact.
You have to compare the do-nothing, right?
What's that?
Yeah, to compare the do-nothing.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Could you factor in anything in that general area that any resident has had to pay?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm just thinking St. Anne's Church. I know that's not Wampy Beach, but St. Anne's Church having to put up the new seawall. Some of those other homes on there having to put up seawalls. I mean, I'm just.
Our experience, to your question about desire to spend the funds, right? So MEMA gets these federal funds. They're trying to demonstrate that they're using these funds appropriately to mitigate hazards, and so they're motivated by trying to expend these funds.
So worst case scenario for us is that we use our climate resiliency fund to finish our design that the board approved for Barry to go off with his team to do. And then worst-case scenario is they say you don't meet the 1-to-1 ratio, and we, as Alan said, and you've all said, we have our design.
And then we look for others.
They're not really losing it.
Which is what we have
Want.
climate resiliency money
money
for
for.
anyways, so,
Yeah.
as David
Right.
said. Yeah.
Okay.
I think option 2 is the way to go, because we want to get in the queue, and if somebody's wanting to spend money, let's
grab it.
let's go shopping.
If you were interested in moving forward, I would need a motion for you to agree to contract with Woodard and Curran to do the final design for an amount not to exceed $125,000.
I will make a motion to contract with Wood and Curran to complete the final design for no more than $125,000.
Second.
I have a first and second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
So tomorrow, you'll
Yeah, when, you'll have,
Tomorrow?
You already made the motion. I can't speak about pace. In terms of the question that was asked about pace and timing, Lori and I had a conversation about that and making sure that we have the resources to put towards this project. We understand the critical nature of it and the importance of it to the community, and we're on it.
okay.
Good,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
And Eric, just 20, well, how many months? When did it have to be, the project?
A
have to-
year
24, I believe it's 24
From,
months.
from date of award?
Yes.
forward.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not worried about that.
No.
I think that's why they want you in final design.
Yeah, well, and once you start a project, and they start paying some of it, if you're not quite there in 24 months, they're not gonna, they usually will, there's ways for them to make it.
I would say probably unlikely, yes.
You just gotta start it.
Yeah, we can lock the door now until Barry gives us the date we want.
Thank you.
We are
Sorry,
shooting,
Barry,
we
did you
are,
hear that?
we are shooting for the beginning of January 2025.
To have his stuff done?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought to have the 3 million. I was like, good.
No,
Okay.
so that we
the
could
design
go,
has to be completed for us to put in the application.
Yep.
So they need a full design completed, so
So January, okay.
that's the pressure.
January 1, right? January 1.
December 30th.
December 31st. Yeah.
That's the pressure point, and we
That's-
understand the pressure point.
You're invited to the New Year's Eve party where you'll present it to us.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12, appoint Claire Julian and Michael West. I just want to make sure that everybody knows it's not Michael West and two different people.
I thought it was a
Has election warden for November 5th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay. Okay, accept the following donations. One, $50 from an anonymous donor towards the nurses' general needs account. Two, $90 from an anonymous donor towards the emergency fuel account. Three, $300 from an anonymous donor towards the nurses' general needs account. Do I have a motion?
So moved with
Second.
much appreciation.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? And thank you guys very much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
That's very, very nice.
I thought you,
I was just checking things.
so, okay, it's a good thing you do. Okay, 14 on the business. David?
I would just like to say that the South Congregational Church asked the town to come and celebrate with them for their 200th anniversary of the sanctuary, the church. So I did represent you and the rest of the town on their Sunday celebration, which was very nice, and they did a great brunch. So that iconic building is 200 years old.
Congratulations to them.
Yes, very nice.
Sheila, were you one of the first persons?
I think Sheila was one of the founding
St.
members.
Martha's.
She was one of the founding members.
Hey, none of this.
Is that it, Dave?
Yeah, that's it.
None.
None?
None?
I have none?
Uh-oh.
I just want to thank the staff for all their work on the volunteer recognition
Oh,
event this
yeah.
morning.
Oh, yeah.
They cooked, they cleaned, they got the the place ready. It was a very nice event, and thank them for all their efforts.
I should have mentioned that. It was,
There was
ve-
a lot of, there was
David,
quite
huh?
a few people.
No, I will second that,
It was a
Maria.
good
Yeah,
event.
it was,
Job well done.
job
by
well
all-
done, and you know,
And a thank you to all the volunteers who came too, and all the work that they do for the town too.
yeah, and I like to say from my standing, I wish more volunteers were there, because I know we have quite a few in our town. And, you know, we had plenty of people there, but there are so many more. And this is the way for the town to thank you. So maybe next year we'll get
Yep.
more
I
volunteers.
suggested to Hope that next year, we have the select board cook.
Oh, no.
They'll never come back.
Well,
They'll come
You
back.
serve, you pour the coffee.
and what did I
Who's
tell
gonna
you?
do
I can do.
Are you gonna do the cooking?
I'll do the cooking.
I did some cooking today.
You're the one that
just so
owns
you
the
know.
restaurant, but I will do the cooking.
Okay, item 15, approve the October 10th, 2024 warrants.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all in favor. And
Move to adjourn.
Second.
have a first and second, all in favor. Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.